Christmas pettiness that kept on giving. This is a story about my mom and the absolute depths of pettiness she could sink to. Growing up, we could never put lights on our Christmas tree. My parents would always say it was a fire hazard and would recount a story about one of their first Christmases together when their tree caught fire. Apparently, my dad had fallen asleep on the couch and was woken up to the kitchen and living room filled with smoke. He woke up my mom and got her and the dog out of the house, then ran back inside to check things out. He came out a few minutes later with the tree wrapped in a blanket and threw it into a snowbank, saying it caught on fire. Ever since then, they had no lights on the tree rule to prevent a repeat occurrence. My whole life, we never put lights on the tree, despite nearly everyone else we knew, including both sets of grandparents, putting lights on their trees. I'd occasionally question my parents about it and would always get the same fire hazard story. My mom did go to some lengths to make up for it, though, with a lot of colorful glass balls that would catch the light as well as other reflective ornaments. Anyway, years pass and I'm now an adult. One year I'm talking to my mom and the tree fire story comes up. She chuckles and asks if I'd like to hear the real story. Turns out that night many years ago, the tree did not catch fire. What actually happened was my dad decided to fix himself something on the stove late at night. He fell asleep on the couch with the pan still on the hot burner, and it eventually began to smoke, waking him up. After he got my mom out of the house and realized what caused the smoke, rather than take the tongue lashing and the ruined pan and irresponsible stove use, he decided to pin the blame on the tree. A few theatrics later, and he thinks he gotten away with it. He even brought the burnt tree back inside the next day, saying it must not have burnt much because it still looked all right. He might have pulled it off too, had he done more than just throw the ruined pan into the kitchen trash can. My mom found it in the trash the very next day and put two and two together pretty quickly. She could have nailed him to the wall right then and there, but she decided to play the long game and didn't say a word. See, it turns out she never cared that much about lights on the tree. It was my dad that really liked them. So next year and every year thereafter, when they were decorating the tree and he'd go to put the lights on it, she'd remind him that they couldn't put the lights on the tree because of that time it caught fire. I don't think she ever intended for this to be a long-running thing, but my dad was stubborn to a fault and never admitted it was really the pan. So every year she kept his lie going, knowing he was the one paying for it. She did eventually tell him she knew the truth some 30 years later. He had developed cancer, and it was his last Christmas, so he decided to come clean. He just laughed and laughed about it. She gave him the option to do lights on the tree that year, but by then they had had more years without it lit tree than with, and he had grown to prefer it that way, without the decoration.
Now, why would you do that to us? Why would you do that? You trying to get us look, because we both about to get teary-eyed in here. Are you kidding me?
Merry Christmas.